Hello, this is David from DN Cognitive Counseling. Tonight we have a very important and interesting statement and question from Jen on the video I did on honesty. And the reason why it's so important is in Jen's response, she really does share a lot of important information and you get to really understand her perspective, and I find it to be very important. So I'm going to read the question and the statement in its entirety so it doesn't lose anything, and then I'm going to go back and comment. Hello and happy Wednesday. I very much enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for making them. You and I are going to disagree now though. As far as terminal illness, I don't think it should necessarily be a matter of time, but more a quality of life. And I think it's up to the individual person to determine for themselves. I understand the concept of social survival and survival of the species, but I also know firsthand the pains of life. I don't think it's fair to ask or expect anyone to have to deal with debilitating pain on a daily basis for the rest of their lives. Whether their lives are 5 days, 5 years, being in pain is not worth living. And if you get to the point where my only functioning every day is to be in pain and I have no quality of life, I hope I'm coherent enough to do something about it, because I have no desire or intention of experiencing that kind of pain or putting my family through watching me die like that. Before you go off on me, know this. When I was 16, I watched my stepfather die a horrible death from cancer. When I was 22, I watched my mom die the same death. It was awful. I don't want my children to see me like that. When I was 30, I was diagnosed with a rare form of cancer that currently has no treatment. My prognosis was 2 years. Had I given up back then, I wouldn't have had the last 15 years. So I'm not advocating all terminally ill patients be allowed to kill themselves. And to be honest, do they really need permission or help? I never understood that part of the entire and quite certain that you are not going to explain it. Anyway, I don't think that someone should be allowed to kill themselves because of a frightening diagnosis. But I do think if they fought the good fight and their body has just had enough, they should be allowed to decide for themselves when they've had enough. There are stretches of day I'm in bed and on the bedroom floor that I'm in so much pain that I'm either crying, sleeping, or vomiting. I have children I'm surviving for, and I know if I hold on long enough, those days will pass, and I'll have a couple of more good days. But then there'll be the good days will pass, and I'll be damned if all I'm going to do all day is lay around medicated, so completely out of it, I have no idea what's going on, while being ginormously burdened to my family. This is not living, that is existing, and I have no desire to do so. Everyone's enough. That is where, because it becomes tricky. Do you really think it's fair to punish, essentially torture people, because we can't find the line and we're worried about a slippery slope? Someone once told me, when there's life, there's hope. And I very much believe that, but who are we to force other people to believe what we do? There is no proof. While it saddens me to hear that a rape victim was allowed to kill herself because of her emotional pain, it was her pain. Getting over emotional pain is hard work, and maybe she didn't have it in her. I do think if she worked for it, she could have and would have come to a better place. But why should she have to? I'm not an advocate for suicide. I believe in hard work and therapy and rehabilitation. But I also believe, and I don't have the right to tell others what to do or should or should not do. I can't provide my help and advice, but at the end of the day, it's their decision. I have no proof you'll actually go to hell if you kill yourself, nor do I have proof that you'll be punished at all. It's a belief, and barring direct proof, I don't feel I have the right to tell anyone what to do. For me, it's kind of like abortions. Maybe it's a cop-out, but I have no idea what the right answer is. If so, I do have a right for me and everyone else to do what's right for them. Believe it or not, I understand the concept of the pain medication may kill you, but not our intended goal. I don't know why, but I get it, and I actually agree with you. I understand you want to err on the side of life, but with all due respect, and pray to God, you never learn differently. If you were in constant pain with no hope of recovery, you may change your mind. One of my other beliefs is that you can never be sure how you're going to react in any situation until you're in the situation. I found that most of the time, people are surprised by themselves. Jen, first off, I thank you very much for sharing this with basically everybody, but this basically sharing this because it is absolutely difficult. And I'm not going to pretend to understand what you're going through personally and the pain that you're going through. I've watched in working in hospice how many people did, and their pain was horrific. I not for 1 second am going to take away or try to say that you should live in pain because of what I believe. Here is the issue. And you actually make mention of it here. Abortion was supposed to be rare, safe, rare, and, something that was supposed to be very little. And it turned from that into a much more normal and consistent procedure. Now, whatever your belief system on that is, it's not how it was originally advertised. You made mention of believing that the young woman who killed herself should have every right to. By your aspect of definition, every person that wants to commit suicide should have the right to, because they are in pain and they're making a choice. Right now, the laws are that we don't allow them to do that. That psychiatrists have the right to make a determination that this person's not in the right state of mind. Now, even though you believe that you like to die in that way, and again, I'm not ever in a million years trying to take away or say that you shouldn't feel the way you feel. On the other hand, I also know what happens if you open those gates. There will be a lot more death and a lot more people to die. One of the major tenets of Nazi ideology was something called eugenics. If you've seen the show Man in the High Castle, you see what they talk about of quality of life. And when somebody has a genetic disorder or genetic disease, they're going to wipe them out, and they generally that's what they do. The mindset that you do this to life becomes very dangerous and scary. If tomorrow they came out with a cure for your particular cancer, or if in 3 months they came out with a cure for your particular cancer, and you then said, I want to die in 4 months, would you change your mind? So I want you to really think about this idea that when you said, when there's life, there's hope. I actually believe that. I think that's actually a true mentality. When you decide that you want to die, you're taking away that hope. Now, again, I do agree that you should not be in that level of pain. And we can give you as much pain medication as possible in order to alleviate the pain as much as possible. And that is the distinction. I think that's very important, that when you're at that level of pain, if pain medication takes you over the edge, that's not killing you. It is to stop the pain. That distinction, I think, is a really important one. I'm glad you agree with me on it. Because when you don't, and you devalue life, the more you devalue life, the easier it is to devalue all life. And one of the things that, as a tenet of society, I don't think we should ever get to the point of devaluing anybody's life. We should all care about people's lives. Yes, we don't want to see them in pain, but everybody has some quality to their life. Everybody has some mechanism in their life. And if they don't, and again, I'm going to give you now a spiritual concept. Now, you can definitely disagree with this, but in the idea, because you mentioned God here a few times in here, if you do believe in the aspect of a higher power or God or some sort of being that created the universe, the definitional aspect of why you are suffering then takes a whole different meaning. And then you're deciding, I'm going to end the suffering beforehand against God's intention. And that is a question into itself. Now, I do realize that you can't make law based upon religion, but religion and ideology do sometimes mix in what people believe. Example, in abortion. Most people are against abortion because of their religious belief system when life begins. You know, that's where that mindset comes from, and that's why they're so vehement when they fight it. Most people who are for abortion don't believe that. And that comes from more of that kind of belief system, which is one of the reasons why they always say to a person that is Christian and pro-abortion, how do you manage to work that out? And it's very interesting to hear the answers as they try to pretzel. But assuming for a minute that we want some consistency, most people are against abortion because of when life begins. Now, you made mention of the fact that you were given 2 years to live, that you were supposed to have 2 years and that was it. And that was 15 years ago. Had you, at that time, made the decision, well, I only have 2 years left to live, I'm terminal, I want to end my life, you would have lost out on 15 years of life. This is another reason where the problems start coming about, when you give people that choice. Now, you made mention of something that's very true. Somebody that really wants to commit suicide, nobody's going to stop them. The government's not going to stop them. Mental health professionals aren't going to stop them. People will be able to kill themselves, for the most part. Assuming you're not in bed and that you're not crippled to point. But most people have the ability to end their life in many different ways. And sadly, many people do. So when a person comes forward and says they want to die, more often than not, it's a cry for help. In my experience, most of the people that have attempted to commit suicide later regretted their attempts and wanted to live. The nature of once you make this legal and it gets the attention and there's the factors that people see, it changes the way that people see life. I believe all life is sacred. Now, you may have a different belief and you may think that I'm wrong, and you have every right to that. And I would never tell you that you should live in pain because of my belief. But I don't believe the government should be taking away people's lives because of the idea of suffering, especially on a personal choice. It is a very, very slippery slope. We see that when the government decides to take away people and allow them to die in this way, there is a very slippery slope. As I mentioned, what happened in the Netherlands about the person that had the right to die because of what happened. And she was very young and wasn't going to die from a terminal illness, but her quality of life. And then what about children who are born with diseases or on wheelchairs? And what about their quality of life? When we don't treat that sacred, it does become psychologically problematic in the way that people view and the choices that they make. And we devalue and devalue. And I understand that you may not like that. And right now, you may see that the government is going to choose to change the law in New York. There is a proposal right now that got postponed due to COVID for the ability for people to have basically a medically assisted suicide. I know that proponents go back and forth in different crime, but that's what the bill basically is that when you're terminally ill and the doctors give you a medication basically to end your life, that is on the table. And it may pass. There is definitely support that people believe that way. But I fear, and I'll document it here for eternity, that this will be one of those things that lead to a very slippery slope. And a lot more people are going to die and suffer in that direction. but I totally, totally respect your position, and I feel horrific about what you're going through. And I hope that you won't have that much pain, because it sounds at this point, you're not at that point at this idea, but you're reserving your right. And I hope that you'll find some cure to this as medical advances are coming, as more things are being discovered. And I hope and pray that you get better and that you have many, many, many more years of life without pain and suffering. I wish you a good night. If you like this video, hit like. If you dislike this video, please tell me why. And if you'd like to subscribe to the channel, please do that as well. Share this with people who may have the same issues or people that are going through this. And I'd love to hear your comments if you disagree with anything I said. And if you'd like to support the channel, you can hit the button on the bottom for the Subcribe-star and become a patron. Have a good night and good mental health.